Rey learns new tricks with her staff, plus we have Sarlacc invading Coruscant's lower levels, all this week on Star Wars Weekly. Hello fellow Star Wars fans, it is Starrapter here, and welcome back to the channel. There are not as many comics to talk about this week as there was last week, but we still have two good ones to talk about. First off, I want to start off by talking about Journey to Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker Allegiance, issue number 2. If that isn't a mouthful, I don't know what is. So this one is subtitled Troubled Waters. We have the Resistance storyline of Leia, Rose, Rey, Chewie, C-3PO, and R2. They're on Mon Cala, trying to get help from the Mon Calamari, who still have a strong fleet. You know, it's been 30 years since the fall of the Empire, but they still hold a grudge against Leia, who kind of, you know, didn't mean to, but brought the hammer down on that planet when she went there to try to get help from the Mon Cala the first time with Ackbar, and they ended up getting the ships, but they still were under Imperial rule then. So they are very hesitant about giving help to Leia, and well, we see that the Quarren specifically are definitely not having it with her. They are led by this one guy who is actually in the Clone Wars series. His name is General Nasor Reed, and well, Leia pleads to the government in a similar manner that Padme did during the Clone Wars, which is super cool. She's in this environmental suit underneath the water, and she's speaking, and they just aren't having it with her. They think because she was a daughter of Darth Vader, right? This is brought up in Bloodline. I love how we're getting all these connections now in the canon. They just hold a grudge against Leia. They don't think that they are going to have their ships to good use. They don't want to have any trouble. But then, by the end of this issue, it turns out that one of these Quarren is actually affiliated with General Hux in the First Order, so it doesn't look like they're going to be neutral for very long in this conflict. In the meantime, we have Rey, who is basically holding off all these Quarren that are just going up and trying to get Leia and the crew out of there because they're trying to cause too much trouble. So that's how that ends. We also have a storyline with Finn and Poe and BB-8 where they are trying to find this old Republic cache. Well, actually, it's a New Republic cache, but when they get there, they realize, hey, this is like an airspeeder from the Rebellion era. Things are going back even further. So they're trying to find this, and they're being hunted by bounty hunters that are put there by the First Order because Finn's name is on the top of the list for the First Order to get him back alive to Hux. And we also have a little bit of a storyline with Kylo Ren. He's taken over the Fondor shipyard, so if you've played Battlefront 2, you're going to be familiar with this. So they've had I guess it's Scion Fleet Systems. You guys can correct me on the specific manufacturer of the ships. Apparently, they were always a third party, and Empire kind of let them do it. Well, the First Order just wants to take over this entire installation themselves, and well, they don't want to because they end up doing it by force. Kylo Ren just beheads I guess the lead dignitary of this installation, and he will have no help for the Resistance whatsoever. So we're seeing Kylo Ren really just going all out after his loss at Crate, losing the small amount of Resistance member. He's going through with an iron fist and just slaughtering everybody in his way if that's what it takes for him to get to the Resistance. So talking about specific things, I'm going to go back to the storyline with Leia on Mon Cala. She meets somebody, which I think it's been rumored that we might actually see in the Rise of Skywalker, and that is the son of Admiral Ackbar. So we learned about this new character named Aftab Ackbar, and he is on the side of Leia. He wants to give her help, and well, he has the lineage of being underneath Admiral Ackbar, and the other Quarren are actually talking down to him. I find his story very interesting because this character of Ackbar, he didn't really know his father, really. Like, his father had him as a kid and maybe seen him once or twice, and that's it. But he still respected his father to the point where he studied all of his battle tactics and whatnot. So I think he might be, in the Rise of Skywalker, a very important figure that's going to help spearhead the fleet of the Resistance. And there's this great moment where we're getting a lot of tie-ins to The Last Jedi with the loss of Ackbar, which I think they're trying to maybe rectify a little bit for the fans and giving the fans a moment to really remorse with Leia, because we didn't really have a whole lot of that in The Last Jedi. And one thing we know, you know, he's alive. Next thing you know, oh, he's dead, by the way. Like, we don't get a lot of, remembrance of him. But in this issue, we do, because there's this big thing under the water called the Morning Shrine, which is this big statue face of Ackbar. And we see Leia and we see Aftab there trying to console each other. I also really like seeing how Rey is just uncomfortable in the situation that she is. she is kind of feeling like she's on the sidelines, at least for the beginning of this issue, where she's not really advancing herself with her skills as far as the Force abilities, right? She doesn't have a mentor, she doesn't have a teacher, she has a book, and that's about it. And we see her reading that in not the Force Awakens, in the Poe Dameron comics. But then we also see her at the end of this issue, which I really enjoyed, where she's teaming up with Chewie, she's teaming up with Rose, and they're going at it with these Quarren that try to get to the Falcon and try to get them to leave, and they're not leaving without Leia, so they are putting up a fight. And we see Rey, remember, she doesn't have the lightsaber. We see her with the lightsaber in the Rise of Skywalker trailer, but I guess she's going to reforge it in that movie because she's still using the staff. She says she wished she had the lightsaber, but she still holds her own quite well. There has to be like 30 of those Quarren against just like 3 or 4 of them, and she's using the Force to actually spin, it looks like in this image, to spin the staff to hit like 3 or 4 guys at once without even using her hands. So she's obviously advanced her ability with the staff, augmenting it with the Force, which I find is awesome. I also got to give a shout out to Rose because she's really holding her own. Like, we see her with this new appearance, which I really enjoy, by the way. I think it suits her very well as this Resistance commander now. And she has, she's sporting a blaster, but at some point she's actually using her, like, little stun gun thing that she used on Finn Last Jedi, and she's using that really effectively against the Quarren. So yeah, I really like that, and you see Chewie just smashing the 2 heads together and dropping them on the ground. So really awesome stuff there. I like that we're getting callbacks to in the Finn and the Poe storyline with the old rebellion with the airspeeder there. That to me is pretty cool there. But overall, this issue is very solid, and again, it's such a great story by Ethan Sachs, and we got the artwork by Luke Ross, which really complements his storytelling. Very vivid, very very vibrant, and it really just goes to show like this is a very important piece of Star Wars history. We're learning about the Resistance building up their fleet in between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Moving over to the IDW comic this week, it is Star Wars Return to Vader's Castle. This is issue number 3. This is Bop Shabop Little Sarlacc Horror, obviously playing off of Little Shop of Horrors. So they have been doing a great job, just like they did last year. Every single week of October, we are getting this spooky, scary story set in the Star Wars universe. It's all from this perspective of this lost commando that is on the Mustafar planet where Vader has his castle. He's being captured. He's captured by Vinny, who is like the steward of Vader's castle that you see in Rogue One. And he is just tormenting this poor soul with all these horror stories told from all over the galaxy. This one is specifically set on Coruscant on level 1313. Yes, we had the game that was supposed to come out 1313, plus we have a lot of Clone Wars stories set in that era. This one is specifically told about Asajj Ventress in that time in the Clone Wars, where she wasn't no longer a Sith. She became a bounty hunter after being disserviced from Count Dooku. So she has been tapped to go and find out about this disappearance of many people on the lower levels, and it could really disrupt a lot of the gang situation and whatnot. So she's hired by this gangster, and she finds out quickly that, hey, this isn't just a weird appearance or disappearance. This is actually a Sarlacc pit that somebody has, a small Sarlacc, and I think they call it a juvenile, even though the thing is still freaking big. And well, throughout this story, she gets down to the bottom of it, finds out whose it is, and then quickly realizes that the spores that had released are germinating, causing all these other little Sarlaccs to come out. So it's up to her to basically save Coruscant from being infested by Sarlacc pits. So this story itself was pretty straightforward. I would say right now, so far, this is probably my least favorite of the Return of Vader comics so far, because it wasn't as scary, it wasn't as spooky as definitely the Darth Maul one is, and it wasn't as creepy or as weird as the Tarkin one that came out before it. But I do like the beginning because it sets up this really like kind of Jurassic Park feel where you see one person getting pulled by the Sarlacc pit, and then you see the underworld security guard, which I love that design. I'm happy that we're seeing more of that from the Clone Wars brought into this. So we see that pull that guy out. So that to me was like a cool suspenseful moment. I also just like seeing more stories about Asajj Ventress because she's such a complex, very neutral type character, and the way she was in perspective of like a detective in this, and the fact that she can do some good things and some really bad things. Like she can like let people get killed by the Sarlacc pit, and that's where this gets into the more spooky horror kind of level, because she really doesn't show much regard for these people that have wronged her and wronged the community. She's like, you know what, your reward, you're gonna get eaten by Sarlacc, and that's about it. So overall, this is a pretty cool issue. I do want to shout out those appearances of the training droids from Vader Immortal in this very issue. So lots of cool stuff. I've killed a lot of those droids in my time in the lightsaber dojo, so really cool seeing that. So next week we can look forward to Star Wars issue number 73, as well as Allegiance number 3, as well as Return to Vader's Castle issue number 4. What do you guys think about this week's comics? Let's talk about them all in the comment section below. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. I talk about Star Wars on a weekly basis, so make sure if you like this video, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's the easiest way to support me. Plus, I have lots of new content that has been rolling out. I have a review of the latest Star Wars book, Spark of the Resistance, as well as the upcoming book, The Secrets of the Jedi. So make sure you go ahead and check those out. That is going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.